And it's like that. Welcome back to another episode of About Time. We finna get into this nigga Mob James, okay? I've been kind of wanting to get into this nigga. I'm glad somebody posted this nigga life or whatever, because I really want to know about this nigga a little bit more. Not to say it on some intrigue shit, like I want to know about his gangbang history. I really just want to know what he was about and how he moved, because when you see him now, he grew a little bit, you could tell, but at the same time, he's still in that retarded ass state of mind where, gangbanging is still a part of his identity. If you ever see him, he always got, like he got on this right now, he got red on, got the black and red on, got the black and red. He always just showing or rocking his flag at some point. And I feel like when you damn near 60, you need to let that shit go. You should have let it go at 40, 30, but that's just me and my motherfucking humble opinion. But if you don't know, he is an ex-Death Row Blood. He used to run with Suge back in the day. He was used to low-key be protection for Snoop and Dre back in the day also, for a short amount of time. Let's see what's up.
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the life of OG Mob James from the Mob Pirus. Now James will be born in 1965 in South Central, and in 1973 his family would relocate to the city of Compton. Now as a kid, he along with his two other brothers, Timothy and Alton, will all have a close relationship growing up. Now in 1976, James and his brothers would all attend Foster Elementary. Now as a kid, James was always getting into fights on a daily basis. And by third grade, he would get expelled at Foster after punching his school teacher after she tried to take him to the office. Not only was he having trouble in school, but outside of school, he was getting bullied and picked on. So one day, James would head back home, grab a couple kitchen knives, and come back up to the school and wait at the playground for the kids to get out of school. Once he saw his bullies, he would then start chasing them around the neighborhood with knives. But the trouble didn't only stop at school with the bullies. He also dealt with trouble at home with an abusive father who would whoop him, not only for getting in trouble for school, but sometimes even when he had done nothing wrong. One of his beatings were so bad that he had to be taken to the hospital and having the top of his head stapled. Now by the age of 12, James, along with his brothers, would start hanging out on the block around the older guys at Ludus Park. Now one kid in the neighborhood he would see every blue moon was Marion Knight, also known as Suge. Now Suge was hardly around in the neighborhood simply because his mother would not let Suge hang out on the block. Now throughout the neighborhood at this time, James was known as Lil Mac. He was also known for riding the block, carrying a baseball bat, which was broken in half. Now because of his wild behavior, he would be bounced from school to school due to constant fighting. Now at the time, the Eastside Mob was beefing with most Compton Crips, but one of their main rivals was the Santana Block, who were extremely active in the city. Now around 1980, James and a couple homies, while on the block, will be approached by Crips from Palm Oak. Now as James and his homies were about to square up to fight them, one of the Crips would pull out a .38 and open fire. And James would be shot in his chest. Now he would luckily survive his injury, but after being shot, the dynamics would change and James would no longer carry that bat. He would now get a hold of a gun. Now from this point on, James would turn his gangster all the way up and he would officially get put on to the mob. And one of his homies named Michael Rose will give him the nickname Mob James. Now just like elementary school and junior high, James would have trouble staying at one high school due to his behavior. And this would lead to him trying to enroll into Dominguez High. But the day of enrollment, as his father is inside the office signing the paperwork, James will be outside fighting the Crips. And immediately, his enrollment will be terminated. So the next school he will be sent to will be Centennial High School. But at this point, James no longer had any interest in going to school. So what James decided to do was to grab his jacket that he got shot in the chest with, and he would cover that bullet hole with the letter CK, and he would paint Piru on the back. So every day, he would go to Centennial High and Dominguez High, simply looking for trouble, trying to start fights. But eventually, James would drop out of high school completely and start gangbanging full time. Not his
This is some shit I can understand. You coming from a bad background, you coming from a bad household, motherfuckers don't really give a fuck about you, daddy beating the shit out of you, shit like that. I can understand this, okay? When niggas be wilding or whatever, because this be they outreach, you feel me? This be their way to express themselves. This be their way to prove themselves. And when you can't hurt the person that's hurting you, you hurt other motherfuckers. So that's understandable. I can get that. But I just don't get down with all the extra ass shit. But you got your damn self shot. Like, That didn't teach you to leave this shit alone at some point. Like, I'm not understanding. Then this nigga's damn near 60. So that, I mean, he is in his 60s. So that just make it worse for me when I was saying he still flamed up like he really out here like that. But he said he taking a back end from that shit. But we back into it.
Reckless behavior would have its consequences, and one night he would return back home to find his little brother playing with his gun. So to teach his brother a lesson, James would grab the gun and point it at him, telling him, what if it had a bullet in it? And that's when the gun would accidentally go off, shooting his brother. Now his brother would survive, but his father would be pissed off and would try to put hands on him. And James would let his father know if his father did try to touch him, it would definitely be a problem. Now at some point in time, his father and his mother would separate and his father would move out. Now violence in Compton would get increasingly worse due to cocaine moving in and also the use of guns. And Mob James would find himself right in the middle of it. Around 1982, James would get news that one of his homies were being jumped by a group of Samoans up at the Compton swap meet. So James would head up to the swap meet to confront them. But little did he know that it was a 12-year-old kid hiding behind a car with a shotgun who would open fire on all of Mob Piru. And sadly for James, he would be hit, but he would survive. Now, even after being shot on 2 different occasions, this would not stop James from gangbanging or running the streets. It simply made him that much more dangerous. Now, when he wasn't in Compton, James would visit his grandparents in South Central on 81st and Hooper, which was located in the Kitchen Crips hood. Now, James would develop a close relationship with OG Craig Monson, little brother, named Runt from the Kitchen Crips. Now, they were known for being super tight and having each other's back if anything ever went down. Now, over the next few years, James would continue to be active in the streets. Now, one night, James would attend a party where they were rival Crips at, and one of the gang members who was in a wheelchair would try to press James and start banging on him. So James, being the gangster that he was, he would knock the dude out his wheelchair, and things would only go up from there. As James and the mob members went out to the van, Crips from inside the party would come out blasting, and it would be an all-out shootout between the mob.
Bitch, if you in a wheelchair, man, sit your ass down. Let that shit go. They let you go. Let that shit go. You let your legs go. Let that shit go. You ain't got your legs no more, nigga. Let it go. Once you paralyzed, let that shit go, nigga. This is exactly why you need to, because he flipped your ass out your motherfucking wheelchair. And what could you do? Crawl, nigga? Then another thing is, dumbass, you shot your little brother trying to prove a point, and you shot him on accident. If I was your dad, I would have still beat the shit out you. But then he didn't need to be beating the shit out you in the first place. But I would still beat the shit out you and ain't kicked you out the crib. Because, nigga, you up in here playing with guns and acting like it's funny and shit. Or you acting like you teaching the motherfucker a lesson, and then you end up accidentally letting the gun off because you don't know what the fuck you doing. Because you clearly don't know what the fuck you're doing. You still a young ass nigga anyway. So you need to let that shit ride also. Like, you putting everybody in danger at that point, and you not even realizing or acknowledging or giving a fuck about that shit. But this is the same nigga that was crying about losing his brother. So I'm not understanding. You should have did more to protect your brothers. That's all I'm gonna say. As far as that goes, you should have kept them off the streets, and you should have kept your shit to yourself. You should have kept your guns put up. Fuck, why would I point my gun at this nigga? Talking about what if it was bullets in it? You sound dumb as fuck. You really need to be shot again, fuckers. But he did get shot again, so I'm gonna be quiet. But as I get shot a second time, yeah, this ain't for me after that. Cause God is telling me something.
And the Crips and James, in the midst of all the gunfire, would be hit in the back with a 4.5. Yet again, James would survive this injury. Now, with the rise in drugs, Mob James, like many of his homies, would start selling dope to make their money in the streets. Now, in 1984, James and his brother would be kicking it on the block when they would notice a van constantly driving back and forth through the hood. So James started getting suspicious, so he would quickly head back to his house, grab his gun. Now, once he pulled back up on the block, that same van would be seen, and it would suddenly stop at the dead end part of the street. And out of nowhere, the men inside would then open fire. So James and his brother would then return fire back. Now, as multiple shots are being fired, suddenly the shooters inside of that van would stop shooting. And the reason was that one of them had been shot and killed, which was a 16-year-old boy. Now, that van would immediately flee the scene, while Mob James and his brother would continue to open fire. But only seconds later, the Compton police would pull up on the scene and arrest both James and his brother. Now, while at the hospital, that driver of that van would admit to the police that they had planned on stealing the gold Daytons off of James's car. Now, because he admitted to this, both James and his brother would be released due to self-defense. Now, because of the gang violence had hit such a high rate, the city would issue a specialized gang supervision program, which Mob James would be on that list, and any violations would get him sent to prison or jail. Now, in 1986, When James will refuse to go see his PO, this will lead to him violating his supervision, and he will be sent to prison for 2 years. Now, after being in prison for those 2 years, James will realize that this was not the place that he ever wanted to be again. And in 1988, he will be released and be back on the streets. Now, the very next day after being released, Suge Knight will get word and come back to Compton and visit James at his house. And he and James will become super tight and start kicking it every day. Suge at the time will be working security. He will ask James, did he want to come along with him and start working a security job? And James would accept. Now, around 1989, his brother Buntry will be paroled after an attempted murder on a police dog after choking it nearly to death. Now, once out, James will put his brother on, and he will start working with him along with Suge
Damn,
Knight.
this nigga choked the police dog. Goddamn. I know he got killed by Ponytail George, but that nigga choked the police dog. This is why I say the new niggas ain't built for what the fuck would have happened back then. As far as like, this is why I say real shit. I agree with niggas when they say back in the day you would have been more terrified of niggas back in the day versus now, because them niggas had more. They had more of heart. They had more balls. They had more shit that actually gave them that grit. Like niggas getting abused and shit like that. Niggas really going through shit. Nowadays niggas ain't really going through shit for real. Niggas is getting coddled by their mama, and their mama is making them these niggas all pussy and emotional and shit. That's why these niggas is shooting and shit. This nigga choked the police dog, nigga. Do you know what the fuck you know what you gotta do to try to choke a dog out, nigga? Just period, point blank. The fact that you put your hands around the dog, you took the time to try to choke this damn dog. Really stop and think about that. Like, that's some real shit.
Now, in the following year, 1990, Suge Knight will partner up with a local record company called Fern Hill Records, and Mob James and his brother and the other mob members will be hired as a security. Now, James would witness the infamous Vanilla Ice incident of Suge Knight forcing Vanilla Ice to sign over all his publishing. Now, this wouldn't be the only incident that James would witness or be involved in, but it was a lot of things that James will be a part of where they would strong-arming a lot of record executives, including artists in the industry. Eventually, James will become the head of Death Row Security. Now, as Death Row started to build their roster, they would attend the Soul Train Awards. Now, that night, Mob James, along with the Pyru members, were wearing their suits, kicking it in the back of the limo. But also, DOC, who was formerly with NWA, was drunk at the time and would decide to hop in the front seat of the limo and take it for a test spin. He would start driving like a madman down the street, nearly wrecking the car and killing everybody in the inside. But once he returned back to the parking lot where the Soul Train was taking place, Mob James would step up and confront DOC, who would start laughing in his face, and this would lead to James taking off and hitting DOC so hard, he would slide over the hood of the car. James, at this point, had built up a fierce reputation, and he was respected by everybody. Now, the drama with Death Row would continue to get worse. One night at the Roxbury Club, Suge Knight will get into an altercation with 6 players from the LA Rams who he knew from his time playing football. One of the players would then key his Mercedes-Benz. So Suge Knight would run on the inside, telling Mob James and the other Pyrus, who would immediately rush outside and step to the Rams. Out of nowhere, a brawl would take off after one of Suge Knight's twin cousins would punch on one of the Ram players. Now, this brawl would last for a few minutes up until the police would arrive, and one of Suge Knight's cousins would be arrested while still fighting the football player on the ground. Now, Mob James would eventually find himself in deep waters. In 1992, in the midst of Dr. Dre working on the Chronic album, James would find himself being arrested for attempted murder. But due to lack of evidence, the charges would be dropped to an accessory after the fact, and he would only spend 8 months in county before finally being released. Now, over time, James would start playing the back seat and allow his brother, Buntry, to start really working security for Suge Knight, because he was afraid of flying, and his job required a lot of air travel. So this would lead to James working at Suge Knight's lowrider shop called Let Me Ride on Rosecrans. This shop would bring in a lot of business, and even one situation, Dr. Dre's car would be dropped off up there to get worked on, and Mob James would decide to steal a car and joyriding it for nearly 3 days around the hood before finally giving it back. Now, by 1994, Death Row was the #1 label in the country, but they would be facing a lot of turmoil when Snoop Dogg will be arrested on murder charges. Now, at the time of the trial, Mob James will be responsible for posting up outside the courthouse along with other Mob Pyru members. At the time, it had been rumors of some Long Beach Crips who were upset with Snoop Dogg for allegedly not showing love to the city after moving out. So James' job and the other Pyrus were to keep watch just in case any of the Long Beach Crips decided to come up there. Now, about a year later, in October 1995, Tupac Shakur would be released from prison and was signed to Death Row. Now, this was a chess move by Suge Knight, who already had a deep hatred for Puff, but he also knew that Pac had a deep dislike for both Big and Puff, so he would use this to his advantage. Now, Mob James would be acquainted with Tupac and thought he was very talented, but they would have very little interaction. Now, this would be due to James not liking how Pac started to move, especially affiliate himself closely with the Mob Piru members and eventually getting a mob tattoo.
Niggas try to play that gangster, but we MOB for motherfucking real.
Now, with all this going on, MOB still had beef in the city of Compton. Now, at the time, Mob James' baby mother lived in the Southside Compton Crips neighborhood, and she would start feeding him information that the Southside had linked up with Puffy. Now, with this new affiliation with Puff, this would lead to MOB and Southside Compton Crips on a crash course. Now, rumors would start to spread that Puffy had put a 10K bounty out on anybody who can snatch a death row chain, and it wouldn't be too long before somebody took him up on that offer. In the fall of 1996, the Southside Compton Crips and MOB would clash at the Lakewood Mall in an attempt to snatch Trayvon Lane's death row chain. Now, after this attempt failed, everything would spiral out of control in Compton, and this would lead to multiple shootouts. But in September, everything would go from bad to worse when Tupac and MOB would pack out Baby Lane at the MGM Grand. Now, while this fight is going on at the Grand, Mob James was working security at Club 662. Now, about 30 minutes later, while working the door, James would see the Southside Crips pull up in the parking lot before immediately leaving. But only a few hours later, Suge Knight would come back to the club, letting everybody know that Pac had been shot. But ultimately, in the end, Tupac would die from his injuries, and things would only get worse. This would lead to back and forth shootings between the Pirus in Compton and the Southside Compton Crips. Multiple deaths would come about due to this beef. Now, James would get word in the midst of all this shooting from his baby moms that the Southside Crips were bragging about smoking Tupac, specifically Baby Lane. But at this point in time, it didn't matter. The war was already on, and bodies were already dropping. Now, once Tupac died, Death Row would slowly start to fall apart, and eventually the war that nobody saw coming would show up on Death Row's doorstep, and that would be the beef with Compton Pirus clashing with each other. And one of the first deaths would be Heron from Ludus Park, who would be gunned down in 1997. Now, once Mob James saw the Pirus going against each other, this is when he would start to distance himself from Death Row Records, because seeing his homies going to war was something that he wanted no parts of. But in 2002, Mob James' entire world would come crashing down. His brother Buntry would get lined up by another homie for allegedly having a tape which showed the death of Big V from Fruitown Piru. Now, this would lead to Buntry being shot and killed at a gas station in April of 2002, and the death of his brother would break James' heart completely. Now, the day of his brother's death, he would grab his AK-47 and was ready for some payback. But his mother would be that calming voice who was able to talk him down to stop him from possibly causing more bloodshed. The violence between the Pirus would still continue, and James would lose even more homies after this. Now, by the mid-2000s, Mob James had completely stepped away from Death Row and the gang life. But in 2004, Mob James will be accused of cooperating with the feds to help take down FG from Cross Atlantic Piru in the alleged drug transaction from the early 2000s. Now, FG from Atlantic Piru would end up taking the deal and be sentenced to 4.5 years in the feds. Now, Mob James would deny any allegations of being an informant or snitching of any kind. Now, as of today, Mob James is still alive and well and can be seen online doing interviews on YouTube, on different podcasts.
Man, listen, when you get a big brother, when you are an older sibling, you got to realize you're the leader of the household as far as like your younger siblings go. So they going to look after everything you do. They going to follow everything you do. They going to see your actions and want to follow behind them because they think you cool. They think you the shit because you the big brother. You the first to do it. You got to realize you leading them down the path that you going down. So if you going to hell, they going to go to hell. And they might go there first, you feel me, just because of the simple fact of how you moving and ain't nothing happening to you. So boom, you know what I'm saying? God already tried to warn you by getting you hit and letting you live. It ain't that he got you hit, I'm gonna say, but it's just the fact that you got hit and you still lived after 3 times of getting shot. And you actually got shot with his fucking sawed off. Like, so I'm not understanding why you even thought it was cool to still be gangbanging at that point. You don't want your brother to go down that path, so why would you allow yourself to go down that path? You can't sit here and judge a motherfucker or make it seem like, you can't be doing this, but you still running around doing this shit yourself. I can't tell a motherfucker don't have sex before marriage if I'm out here still fucking and I ain't married. Like, I gotta be 100 and I gotta just let them understand This is a part of the game and this ain't a part of the game. This is what come with this shit and this is what don't come with it. And you have to be cautious of what you giving them as far as advice and just letting them know the truth about everything that you telling them, because you don't want to have these motherfuckers thinking this shit is okay to get shot at. It's okay to go to jail. You didn't like jail your damn self. That's why you try to stay out. Then another thing is, damn, like, why you have to knock DOC over the car? Like, damn, you Bobby Brown, this nigga, Michael Bivens, this nigga. Like, I don't know, bro. And then you supposed to be this nigga security guard. But I understand, like, niggas is doing too much, but still, you the bodyguard, he the talent. Let that nigga be him. Talent always gonna be reckless. And that was the main issue with DOC that eventually led up to his demise, as far as him being reckless, him being high and driving and falling asleep behind the wheel. Another thing I want to touch on is just the simple fact that when that war at Death Row started amongst the Bloods, yeah, he backed out, but shit, you backed out not even realizing that your brother's still a part of it, and he on a different side of it than another nigga is, and they gonna come looking for that nigga because of another nigga. And that was what ultimately got him killed. The fact that him and Heron tried to kill somebody and they didn't succeed at killing them, so the dude ended up coming back and killing both of them. And all of these niggas, again, grew up together, came up together, gang banged in the same areas together, was a part of the same fucking gang. But this caused a rift between their gangs, so it ended up separating the gang and ended up being this and that. And it just turned into a whole shit show. But as far as, like, that's another thing too with the Tupac situation I want to get on, is the Puffy thing. People act like Puffy had no hand in it, or Biggie and them, they didn't do nothing. They was just saints. And Tupac started all this shit for no reason. And Baby Lane came out and he wasn't bothering nobody. No, bitch. All of these things had trickling events. Everything came from something else. And it all started with Biggie and a phone call up to a radio station, which ended up getting Snoop Dogg and them shot at, which they rarely speak on, which ultimately ended up leading to niggas going to get Tupac out of jail, which ultimately ends up leading to these niggas dissing him on records, which ultimately leads to niggas going on stage and dissing him at the House of Blues. So it's funny to me that Snoop Dogg tried to wipe this shit under the rug when his songs on YouTube and freestyles on YouTube where motherfuckers is speaking on this shit and dissing Biggie and all that shit. Then you got Puffy dissing niggas on mixtape. They even got Lil' Kim got a song coming at Tupac. People gotta realize, like, all of this shit, as far as with Death Row, it's full circle. It's not just no one event, and it don't fall on just one person. It's multiple motherfuckers, and it eventually ended up leading to these motherfuckers beefing with each other because they felt like Suge wasn't giving them enough money. And Suge tried to pay a motherfucker to kill one motherfucker. And the thing is, you can't let your ego override your finances, bro. Don't let your ego kill your success. Don't let your ego be the death of you. Don't let your ego be the reason why you locked the fuck up when you could have been out here thriving and making millions and billions of dollars, especially when you was already at the top of the world. You fucked yourself up at that point, and just trying to be gangster and trying to be the top dog and shit, and you got crash outs, this and the third. Yeah, you got niggas that's willing to do shit, but keep them in a situation where they don't have to do shit, to where they know, okay, if I crash out for this nigga, I'm good. Or if anything happens to this nigga, I'm jumping in because this nigga takes care of me. This nigga paid for my crib. This nigga got me here. He got me doing this and shit like that. Like Neckbone say, shit, Suge got him off the street. And niggas be more thankful for that than you would even know. But a lot of niggas wouldn't understand how serious that is when they ain't in that boat, or they too deep in that motherfucking boat, which James was too deep in that motherfucking boat. And this is why he ultimately did separate himself, because he had already kind of pulled back from Death Row at this point. And he even told his brother, he said shit, he don't think Suge gonna really take care of them. But y'all let me know what the fuck y'all think. Personally, I think this let me know Mob James is he a reckless dummy. He a reckless dummy, and I feel bad for what he went through, but at the same time, like I said before, it don't matter what you went through. It matter how you carry yourself after. It matter what you do and what you think and how you move after the fact of what you went through. Because you don't have to be a danger to the society. You don't have to be a danger to yourself. And ultimately, you led to your brother's deaths because you made this shit the thing to do, nigga. You was outside shooting at motherfuckers with this nigga. You out here robbing niggas with the nigga. You out here just doing reckless ass dumb shit. That's why I say you dumb. But you gotta think and move smarter when you have people on your shoulders depending on you and looking at you as a role model. But y'all let me know what the fuck y'all think, man. Later on down the line, you gotta realize this same baby mama they talking about, they daughter ends up becoming a crip. So what do that leave you? You know what I'm saying? I'm out.
These hoes be perking, man. OGs of me, boy, watch your back. Hey, these niggas bound to attack. Gotta know your purpose, understand what work is. these snakes is lurking.